On this Monday night, Ontario's Premier not backing down. How Doug Ford is standing by his anti-tariff ad.
It was the most successful ad in the history of North America.
Where this leaves the Prime Minister and the trade talks with Trump.
I'm not going to be meeting with him for a while.
Alberta's plan to punish teachers.
It feels like you're being attacked.
The back-to-work order the province has imposed. Jamaica hunkers down as Hurricane Melissa bears down.
We're going to be totally flooded.
What could be the strongest storm to ever hit the island. Plus, the Blue Jays and their fans on enemy turf.
I just didn't realize that many Canadians were here.
Our Eric Sorensen is in Los Angeles for Game 3.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Canada's trade talks with the U.S. have fallen further off the rails. U.S. President Donald Trump has canceled all talks and says he won't meet Prime Minister Mark Carney for a long time. He's angry about Ontario Premier Doug Ford's one-minute anti-tariff ad that ran in the U.S. It has now been pulled, but Premier Ford is making no apologies for it. He spent today doing multiple interviews on American TV News.
When we first played it, President Trump came out and basically almost congratulated us and said, if I was Canada, I'd run those ads too. And I guess he woke up the next morning, someone got into his ear and said, those are terrible ads. I don't regret it at all. My intention was to make sure the American people were informed and have a conversation. And it really started a conversation.
And he's got the support of BC's NDP Premier.
It is absolutely essential that we talk to Americans about the implications of tariffs, about the fact that trade policy in the United States right now is governed not by logic, not by economics, not by relationship, but by something else entirely, and by one individual in the White House.
Can the trade talks be salvaged? And where does this leave Prime Minister Carney, who, like Trump, is at summit meetings in Asia? Mackenzie Gray has our top story tonight.
Official handshake.
Half the world away, the Prime Minister trying to find new customers for Canada.
We're fortunate to have the partnership, and a partnership that we should be growing.
But it's the President of Canada's biggest customer who wants nothing to do with Mark Carney for now.
I'm not going to be meeting with him for a while. No. I'm very happy with the deal we have right now with Canada. We're going to let it ride.
He's a good man. He does a great job, but he's a tough negotiator.
A major mood swing from 3 weeks ago at the White House.
How did your relationship with Donald Trump go south so fast?
It's a question for him.
Donald Trump publicly blames the Ontario government's anti-tariff ad featuring Ronald Reagan for the rift. Carney, who has staked his political career on being able to negotiate with Trump, believes the ad scuttled a potential deal on steel and aluminum.
There were a series of very detailed, very specific, very comprehensive discussions, negotiations up until the point of those ads running.
But Doug Ford punched back, saying Carney wasn't in the dark.
He saw the ad before I put it out, so did his chief of staff. They both saw it, and we moved forward on it.
While Ford has called for tougher lines against Trump, he's also been Carney's biggest provincial cheerleader. The pair meeting last week at Ford's Etobicoke home, days before the ad ran on U.S. TV.
I'm not going to get into personal conversations that we had. He knew I was running it. I said it very clearly to everyone. I'm going to pause it on Monday, which we have.
Carney, who spoke before Ford, took a philosophical approach when asked if he blamed the Premier for the trade troubles.
You have to keep your cool during those situations. It doesn't pay to be upset. Emotions don't carry you very far.
The ad is also the public reason for a potential new 10% tariff on Canada. But despite the drama, Trump opened the door to not implementing it.
I don't know when it's going to kick in. We'll see, but I don't really want to discuss it.
While Carney believes that a deal with the U.S. is still worth pursuing, Donna, he said the government also has a contingency plan for the Canadian economy if Trump doesn't want to negotiate.
All right, Mackenzie Gray in Malaysia, thank you. The Prime Minister plans to meet the Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea this week at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. It will be the first high-level meeting since diplomatic relations between Canada and China soured in 2018 after Canada arrested a Huawei executive and China locked up 2 Canadians. Prime Minister Carney says he hopes to reset the relationship and intends to discuss a much broader set of issues than trade. Shortly after the Prime Minister returns to Canada, the first federal budget of his government will be presented to Canadians. We got a preview of some of it today, including new measures aimed at construction and healthcare and a tax credit for personal support workers. David Aiken has the details. David.
Well, Donna, there are about 400,000 personal support workers in Canada, and the federal government has been doing what it can to boost their wages. In 2023, Ottawa signed deals with BC, Newfoundland and Labrador, and the Northwest Territories to help supplement wages of personal support workers there. Today, for those in every other province and territory, the government announced a tax credit worth up to $1,100 a year that will begin with the 2026 tax year. Those are unionized personal support workers cheering after Jobs and Families Minister Patty Hajdu announced the tax credit.
It doesn't matter what you call us, PSWs, healthcare aides, home care workers. We are the lowest paid in the healthcare system that can't even run without us.
But there was more, $97 million for a new Foreign Credential Recognition Action Fund, an expansion of the Union and Training Innovation Program to help increase apprenticeship opportunities in the skilled trades, changes to the Canada Labour Code to restrict the use of non-compete agreements to help workers more easily move to new jobs or start their own business. Now, these initiatives are aimed at addressing labor shortages in healthcare, housing construction, and in the trades, but they also serve a political purpose. The Liberals and the NDP have been losing support among tradespeople to the Conservatives. And these measures are partly intended to shore up some potential Liberal political weakness ahead of any confidence vote on next month's budget. Donna.
David Aiken in Ottawa, thanks. On November 4th, we will have special coverage of the first federal budget of the Carney government right here on Global. The U.S. is beefing up its border security policies. It will soon require all non-U.S. citizens, including Canadians, to be photographed whenever they are entering or leaving the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security says the changes come into force starting December 26th, but will take several years to fully implement at all points of entry and exit. Photos of foreign travelers will remain on record for up to 75 years. The department says the change is necessary to ensure people aren't overstaying their visas. The Alberta government has introduced legislation to bring 51,000 striking teachers back to the classroom by Wednesday. The bill imposes a 4-year contract on teachers through the use of the Canadian Constitution's notwithstanding clause. That has never been done before in a Canadian labour dispute. Heather Yourex-West is following developments from Calgary. Heather.
Donna, the Alberta government says it had no choice but to invoke the notwithstanding clause given how far apart the two sides were. But labour groups are vowing to fight back, saying the Alberta government is trying to set a dangerous precedent.
I found an A.
After 3 weeks off the job without pay, Calgary High School teacher Lindsay Marsh-Walters is deeply disappointed.
It feels like you're being attacked. It just kind of feels like whatever you're doing is not working, even though you're trying to stand up for these kids that need more.
My expectation is that students and teachers will be back in the classroom on Wednesday.
But not only will Alberta's Back to Work legislation force an end to the province-wide teachers' strike, it legislates the terms of a new 4-year collective bargaining agreement too, imposing a deal that teachers overwhelmingly rejected last month.
The end of the strike does not bring an end to the teachers' concerns raised through the bargaining process, and we are addressing those concerns head on.
The province says it will begin collecting and publishing numbers on class sizes and composition to address the concerns teachers have raised. But it will also invoke the notwithstanding clause to impose the teachers' new contract, something Canada's Supreme Court has previously found to be unconstitutional.
My initial reaction is one of shock. They have gone much farther than I anticipated that they would. My second thoughts are that they have very likely just started a war with Alberta's labour movement.
A coalition of Alberta unions representing more than 350,000 workers is promising an unprecedented response to what it says amounts to an attack on any worker's right to strike.
The thing that I thought was most likely was to impose binding arbitration, because that, in recent years, is what governments do when they end a strike. This, by any sort of account, is far beyond what they needed to do to be able to resolve this.
Under the legislation, individual teachers who defy the back-to-work legislation will be fined $500 a day, with a $500,000 a day fine imposed against the union. Donna?
All right, Heather Yourex-West in Calgary, thank you. A hurricane heading for Jamaica has intensified so fast it is now a Category 5, and the impact is expected to be catastrophic. Hurricane hunters caught this view from inside the eye of the Hurricane Melissa yesterday. One team member says it's as clear an eye as you will see in the Atlantic Basin. The monster storm is whirling across the Caribbean Sea now and could gain even more strength. Jackson Proskow reports on what Jamaica is bracing for.
Fearing a storm of historic proportions, the island of Jamaica is hunkering down.
All of Jamaica will likely be affected by hurricane conditions, meaning heavy rains and winds above 100 miles per hour.
Residents are boarding up and stocking up on essentials like gas, water, and food.
I think this one is different. I think we're definitely gonna have this one gonna impact us hard.
Everything about Hurricane Melissa is worrying. The size, the power, and the storm's painfully slow path forward across Jamaica and later Cuba.
This hurricane is moving so slowly. It's not going to just come and move on. We're going to be totally flooded.
Predictions are for up to 1,000 millimeters of rain in some areas, catastrophic by any measure. That's on top of powerful, sustained winds that will lash the island for hours.
God bless us, and we are just praying for the less worst to happen.
Just before airports closed, vacationers, including Canadian Kimberly Farrell, made a mad dash to flee.
We are leaving 2 days earlier. WestJet managed to finally get a rescue flight for us. So we're leaving on the 7:45 flight to go home.
Tens of thousands of tourists are trapped behind, left to ride out the storm in hotels and resorts. What they and residents of the island encounter once the storm has passed is likely to be historic devastation. For now, Jamaica watches the sky and nervously waits. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
Global News meteorologist Anthony Farnell is tracking the storm. Anthony, when will it make landfall?
Donna, the extremely dangerous eye wall of Hurricane Melissa expected to come ashore sometime late Tuesday morning on the western half of Jamaica. This is textbook satellite signature of an intense storm, and it is already the most intense storm on the planet this year, one of 3 Category 5s in the Atlantic. Also, according to wind speed, 280 km/h winds, making it one of the 10 most intense Atlantic storms of all time. So this is what we're dealing with, and it is made worse by the path it has taken, moving across the Caribbean, the entire basin, averaging 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above average. And this is already some of the warmest and deepest warm waters anywhere in the Atlantic, so it has no shortage of fuel to continue intensifying, and that is just what it's done at an incredible rate over the last 72 hours. Category 5 strength right up until landfall, and then because of the topography, it starts to weaken. So I guess that's good news. At least it's better news for eastern Cuba. That'll move over Tuesday night into Wednesday. But really, it's Jamaica we are focusing on, and rightfully so. There are some high mountains, especially right here around Kingston. This is the most populated part of Jamaica. 900 to 1,000 millimeter rainfall totals. And if you're thinking of flying out after the storm, think again. Up to a 4-meter storm surge is expected across parts of the south coast. This is the island airport, the main one in Kingston, and this is the only road in and out. A very narrow corridor, and it's going to be submerged along with those battering waves on top of the storm surge. After that, it is Cuba. It is parts of the Bahamas, perhaps the Turks and Caicos Islands, and then Bermuda from this weakening storm. But Melissa is going to be around for several days as it starts to accelerate out into the Atlantic.
That is one to watch. Global News meteorologist Anthony Farnell, thank you. In his own words, coming up, a Canadian-born activist talks about the threats to his life and why he believes the Indian government is involved. A Canadian-born activist is speaking out for the first time about threats to his life. Maninder Singh lives in BC and campaigns for independence for India's Sikh-majority Punjab state. He says threats suspected to be from the Indian government have forced him to live separately from his young children. He fears he could be killed at any time and believes Canada is not offering enough protection. Jeff Semple reports.
Down with one system!
At events protesting the Indian government's foreign interference, his is a familiar face.
India is the only country.
Maninder Singh regularly provides testimony and interviews calling out India's transnational repression that targets members of his Sikh community. But for his advocacy, he's paid a heavy price. 3 years ago, Singh received his first visit from the RCMP's national security team.
The terminology used is you're at imminent threat of assassination. There was no doubt it was the Indian government.
He was told he could no longer live with his young children for their own safety.
I had no choice but to leave.
At first, Singh thought it was an overreaction until June 18, 2023, when his friend and fellow activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead in broad daylight in front of their Sikh temple. Nijjar had received the same warning from police.
That's when this is actually real, and they are bringing this violence to Canada, and everything has changed.
Agents of the government of India.
Prime Minister Trudeau and the RCMP accused Indian government agents of murdering Nijjar, along with other violent crimes on Canadian soil, which India furiously denied. But Prime Minister Carney has worked to reset relations. He's now planning to visit India in January. In a statement, Global Affairs Canada said it's in Canada's interest to strengthen those ties as part of a broader effort to diversify trade.
We basically washed the slate clean and allowed them back into that space again, and where they're still denying doing any of it.
Indeed, in interviews, India's new High Commissioner continues to reject the allegations and claim it's a Canadian problem. Singh, meanwhile, has continued his activism and continues to receive threats. For our interview, he hid his children's photographs and can no longer attend family events.
Weddings, funerals, someone's born, all those things kind of just go away. So you don't put yourself in a situation or others in a situation, especially where they could be harmed because of you.
In an emailed statement, the Foreign Affairs Minister calls it unequivocally false to claim that Canada's foreign policy ignores the Sikh community's concerns. But Singh says that community feels very ignored by a government seeking to normalize relations with a regime that's orchestrating violence here in Canada. Donna?
All right, Jeff Semple in Toronto, thank you. Sexist cyberbullying ahead. The trial begins for those accused of harassing the wife of the French president. In Argentina, President Javier Milei's far-right party has won a landslide victory in the country's midterm elections.
Soy el rey de destrozar.
Borrowing a slogan from his American counterpart, Milei vowed to make Argentina great again. His party tripled its seats in both the Senate and the lower house. That will make it easier for Milei to press on with radical spending cuts and free market reforms. Analysts say the recent $20 billion bailout by the U.S. may have helped sway some voters. Argentinians, though, still face economic challenges as the cost of living and unemployment continue to rise. In France, the trial began today for 10 people accused of cyberbullying Brigitte Macron, the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. 8 men and 2 women aged 41 to 60 are accused of spreading false claims that Macron was transgender and was born a man. They also compare the age gap between her and her husband to pedophilia. Those baseless claims have gained ground among conspiracy theorists in France and the U.S. If convicted, the accused face up to 2 years in prison.
The Toronto Blue Jays are here at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles for Game 3 of the World Series. More on that coming up on Global National.
The Toronto Blue Jays had a flashy start to the World Series. That first win at home was big, but Game 2, not so much, largely due to the sensational performance by the Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher. It is far from over, though. The Jays are looking to bounce back on the road and regain the series lead. Eric Sorensen is in Los Angeles for Game 3. Eric.
Donna, the Blue Jays are here on a mission to carry the momentum that got them to the World Series to win a Game 3 here in Los Angeles tonight against the heavily favored Dodgers, who've been to the series 23 times. Almost anywhere in Los Angeles, you can spot the presence of the Dodgers and their storied history. Dodger blue is the iconic baseball symbol in Southern California. This is the team's 5th World Series appearance in the last 9 years.
Good for business. Yeah, good for everybody, I think.
It seems the Dodgers as contenders never gets old.
You know, it hasn't gotten tiring yet. I'm not sure it'll ever get boring.
But some 40,000 Canadians live in the LA area, so there are pockets of Blue Jays resistance, like the Attitude Cafe, which has featured watch parties, a kind of safe space for Jays fans to whoop it up.
We have some Montreal smoke meats.
Sandro Oliverio hails from Montreal and is surprised that Southern California Canadians follow the Jays.
Baseball is always big here. I just didn't realize that many Canadians were here to begin with, and then that they were such big fans, and they are fans.
For Game 3, the Dodgers have another top-line pitcher, Tyler Glasnow, starting. For the Blue Jays, Max Scherzer at 41 has shown flashes of his brilliant past. He'll need that in Dodger Stadium tonight.
Look, they're a great team. They won it last year. They're the champions, but we get a crack at it. We get a chance to be able to go out there and beat them. You know, this is what you dream about as a kid, to have these type of moments.
Living the dream in LA is Shohei Ohtani, the unique two-way player, pitcher and hitter who flirted with signing with the Blue Jays 2 years ago. In Toronto's Game 1 victory, Canadian fans chanted to him, "We don't need you." Ohtani smiled when asked about the Toronto chant.
It was a really great chant, and my wife really appreciated it.
Afterward, Ohtani was joking with the Japanese media in Japanese, saying he wouldn't wish that his wife would say, "We don't need him," and they all laughed about that. As for the game tonight, the Dodgers manager, Dave Roberts, said he hopes the Dodgers can win the next 3 games in Los Angeles and not have to return to Toronto. For the Blue Jays, they must win at least 1 game here in LA, and what better way to do that than to win Game 3 here tonight? Donna.
All right, lucky Eric Sorensen in Los Angeles tonight. Thanks. That is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Here Canada showcases Cape Mary and Churchill, Manitoba, Ocean View Park and Leading Tickles, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Salmo, BC. Please keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to Global National at globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.